My name is Marcella, Miss Lago, Araica, and you are here at Dream Asylum Studios here in Miami. Miss Lago came from a time when I first started in the business. I was working with Missy Elliott, and I was not exactly the fastest person in the studio on Pro Tools specifically. Missy works at a very high speed rate, and so basically, when I, was called a turtle from her because I was so slow, I decided to just take it upon myself to just prove her otherwise. So I started really practicing and just really getting really fast and efficient in Pro Tools so that the next time I would have to, sit in the chair and record her, I would be able to keep up with her. So when that opportunity came and she realized that it was like night and day from the last time I sat in the chair, she was like, wow, you fast, Marcella Lago. And then it became like that name, Miss Lago, based off the Lamborghini. So I started working at the Hit Factory in Miami as an assistant engineer. I came out of a school called Full Sail. About a couple weeks after I graduated, I got my internship at the Hit Factory. 2 months into my general assistant gig there, I got my first opportunity to work with Missy Elliott as an assistant engineer in the room. And from that session on, she had requested that I'd be a part of all her sessions. So I basically got the ongoing gig of being the assistant engineer and working with her, which I ended up working with various artists with her because at the time she was working with on her project, she was working with an artist by the name of Monica. There was another girl group by the name of 702. And then from there, I started working with Timberland. So it became, one after the other where I started working with so many different artists. I mean, everything from Jay-Z to Beyonce, early, like Destiny's Child, that time. I remember hearing Timberland's productions for the first time, and that stuff just like, whoa. I remember hearing like Aaliyah's One in a Million and being like, this is incredible. Like the fact that he would throw in like a cricket in there or something, and a baby and another record that he did with her. And, the stuff that he was doing with Missy Elliott at the time was just so incredible. So to fast forward, 10 years after that, maybe 5 years after that, I ended up working with them, so it was just a very surreal thing for me because some of the producers and artists that I grew up loving and respecting, even down to the engineer, Jimmy Douglas. Because when I started, reading album credits, I would read his name all the time behind the Missy albums, the Aaliyah albums, the Genuine albums, anything that had to do with that whole camp. So it was just really ironic that I ended up working with all of them, to see the process, to see how he worked, to know that this man has been around since the late 70s working on artists from Atlantic Records was just a phenomenal experience, So he's always and will be my number one influential engineer and producer. He's an amazing person. Another engineer I remember listening to and reading the credit and being like, who is this guy? Like I love the sound of his all his mixes. Was Manny Marroquin. Love his work. Like he just has a way of just making things just so linear and beautiful. Everything, you can hear everything. Alicia Keys, who's such a powerhouse in her voice, was a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful mixes that he would put together. So I remember hearing John Lennon's Imagine. It's one of my favorite records to this date. Just on a songwriting level, it's just the most amazing. And I just remember just how it made me feel as being so young. It brought a feeling out in me that I just wanted to understand more about what he was saying in the song. I was so young. I can't remember. I must have been like 7 or 8 at the time. But I remember that it impacted me in a way where I would always want to go back and try to find that song in my dad's music collection to play it over and over. At the time, he had a little vinyl collection, so it was really cool. I'd, try to play it. But that was one record that I remember impacting me on a songwriting level. It happened for me very late in life. I did not grow up knowing I was going to be an engineer. Didn't even know what engineers were. I thought in my mind, the the music making process had to do with an artist and a producer. And I guess in my mind, I thought the producer did everything. They recorded, they did everything. For a long time, I always wanted to pursue a career in music. And out of high school, I went, to try to find a college to had a music program. And everybody was like, no, do you play any music? And I would say, no, I don't play any music. Well, do you know music theory? I'm like, no, I don't. They're like, well, unless you play an instrument or know music theory, the programs are not, for you. So I basically got shut down. And eventually, I started to pursue other avenues and other careers that had nothing to do with music, but I was not happy. My brother knew about this, and he was living in Orlando at the time, going to University of Central Florida. And he called me one night and was like, listen, I think you should drive up here. You should drive up to here this weekend because I really want you to, I want to show you something that I think would be a great opportunity for you. So I just took his advice. I'm like, all right, I'll come up. I was a 3-hour drive from Miami, and he brought me to a school by the name of Full Sail. And he wanted me to come up that weekend particularly because they were actually having an open house where I could go and they would give me the tour and it'd be like this whole thing. So literally during this open house experience, I walked into a real studio that looks like this with a board, an SSL just like this. And it was like my moment of knowing that is exactly, I want to know what every button does on this board. I want to know I want to know what that patch bay is. Why do those cables hang from there? Like, I just want to know everything about it. And I saved up some money for 6 months and then moved out there and went to school for the year. What makes a great song for me is, I think, everything down to performance, to lyric, to production. Everything is just equally just perfect, it can be, and even down to the recording, because you hear certain records, like for instance, the John Lennon record that I love so much, Imagine. To me, it's like, there's nothing crazy about the production, but the production is perfect for what the song is. The lyrics are amazing. And then when you hear the sound of it, it just sounds so warming. Like, it's just like the song is hugging you. Like, you're just like, wow, that's beautiful. It's impactful. And when it can impact you, I think that's what really makes a great song. For everything, when everything just kind of just ties in and makes sense. That's just great. So what makes a great production is when a song, when like the music can actually like go to different places. I don't like when I hear a record and like it's just sort of linear. I love when there's moments, and moments can be anywhere from, it can build up or things can be taken out, but I think when producers pick when those moments happen, I think that's what makes a really, really amazing production. And also the use of certain instruments, like, if you hear a certain song and all of a sudden like an accordion comes in and you're like, wait, that's an accordion, but like it makes sense for a producer to actually know, like, I'm going to stick an accordion in this thing, like, and it not be like, that was odd, like, to me, that makes a really great production. And I think that's what makes certain producers geniuses, is when they're able to like hear things, when they hear like, I want strings on this song, and the strings is what brings so much emotion, like, and or just certain brass moments and like in songs. Like, I think it's very risky to go certain routes with certain instruments. But I think when producers know what they really are going for and they fit it in the right place, and I think it's like, that's what really makes a really cool production. The first thing I focus on when I listen to a song as an engineer is going to be sonics. And it's a very frustrating thing for me sometimes, because I don't listen to music like I guess how I used to, where it was just so kind of freely. Like, now I listen to music and I immediately like, the vocals are too loud. Oh my gosh, that snare needs to come up. Oh my gosh, why is that background like popping out like that, So I think it's just the sonics. I think the overall, just where everything, the placement of just where every instrument is at, is what I listen to first and foremost. Particularly the vocals and the drums. That's what's going to stick out to me the most. That's just, to me, the most important part, because the drums is the rhythm, is what's going to make you move. And the vocals, obviously, it's, a performance happening, so you have to hear and understand what the song is about. During the process of mixing, I have several versions on how I envision the final mix to be. I'm never dead set on one because as I'm, in the mixing process, that can change at any point. But I definitely have an idea on how I want it to feel, but for the final product, I never listen to a song and be like, all right, I know exactly where I want this to go. I like to leave room for creativity. I don't want to put myself in a box. So I just allow, just to be very creative and let things just kind of flow. When you start mixing and you want things to go so smoothly and sometimes they don't, you're not getting EQs right, like things aren't sounding right, when that feeling starts to like decrease and you're like, okay, and you're more at ease and things just aren't like sticking out and bothering you as much, you're in a great place, And I think at that point is when I'll start to second reference it in other places, Okay, now I'm going to take it either out the studio or just listen to it on a whole nother like speaker system, a mix of it in my car. I used to listen to my mixes a lot on a Studer A820 on that little mono speaker, and I loved it. And if I could make my mix bang on that little tiny crappy speaker, I knew I was money. I was like, yeah, this is it. So Nars Records, it stands for New Age Rock Stars. And, the whole concept behind New Age Rock Stars is just that. It's about signing acts that, just have a new sound, a new approach, a new way of creating music with us, and being able to not be in a box, like not listen to what's going on out there, being able to know what's going on out there and create something for what's next, being new age about things. I think signing artists that want to do the same thing that other artists are doing or sound like other artists, that's not what we're interested in. We're interested in very unique talent that, can either write, they don't have to write, just has a persona, has a sense of style that just, that isn't feeling like they're, opening up a magazine and copying the outfit straight out of there. It's like they just have their own sense of style. And I think everybody that not only is under the roster of Nars Records, but even works behind the scenes of Nars Records is we all have very unique personalities and we all are very creative in our own way, even if it's not even in the studio. It's all about, how personalities just give off. Energy is very important with our team. And it's a very fun aspect of my work. I love working with my team. Some of the artists that we work with, I have an artist by the name of Luke James, who is currently signed to Island. We have a joint venture with Island Records. We have a couple of development artists as well that have not been signed yet, but Luke is our main guy right now.